So you mentioned some of the scientists have other reasons for doing that. Let's just get into that before we get into the main evidence around the virus itself, because this really stood out to me from your piece. So that the man who actually organized the original letter to Lancet magazine, which is a very high status medical publication, who is also on the World Health Organization committee investigating the origins of the virus, actually was involved in procuring funding for virology research at Wuhan. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. His name is Peter Daszak, and he's president of the Eco Health Alliance in New York, which specializes in monitoring viruses the world over. And the National Institutes of Health here in the US gave large grants to Dr. Daszak, which he in turn passed on to the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
And this wasn't talked about at the time where he was just offering his expert opinion that Wuhan Institute of Virology was not involved in the original COVID-19 problem.
Well, in the letter to the Lancet, which you mentioned, which later turned out had been organized by Dr. Daszak, he, of course, had a considerable interest in the outcome, because if the virus had escaped from the Wuhan lab, which he had funded, he would be potentially to blame. But this conflict of interest was not declared in the Lancet letter, which moreover concluded, we declare no conflict of interest.
He's on the World Health Organization investigation committee, is that right? So it's not only that he's been arranging public statements that seek to dispel any doubt around the origins of the virus, he's actually doing the official investigation into it.
Yes, he has been a very central player all along. The WHO Commission, the membership was more or less controlled by the Chinese, which had sort of strong influence over the WHO and the conditions under which it would allow the Commission into the country. And I think it's fair to say that all of the membership was acceptable to the Chinese, including Dr. Daszak.
Because I remember that well. They went and visited the lab, and then there was a press conference, and there was a declaration, what seemed to be quite immediate declaration, that the lab leak theory had been ruled out, as I recall. We actually published an investigation into that, an article by a prize-winning investigative journalist called Ian Birrell, and that was then censored on Facebook, saying that this article contains misinformation. And all it was doing was questioning the validity of some of those World Health Organization findings. So this spreads very far in terms of the willingness not to ask these kind of questions.
Well, that's right. Ian Birrell has been an outstanding reporter on this issue. Facebook's behavior has been quite amazing. It's almost as if you're under the control of the Chinese government, because my article as well, I don't know if that's still the case, but at least at one point, if you pulled it up, you were given a similar message. You were then directed to a sort of Chinese propaganda site. I was quite astounded that Facebook would behave in this way, and it sort of shows the severe limitations of its present system for addressing the content it carries.